Oppenheimer's ending leaves its audience pondering a question posed by physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer's wife Kitty: can the world ever forgive the scientist for his role in the atomic bomb? Written and directed by Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer follows the titular character, Cillian Murphy, through the decades, including his work on the atomic bomb, which the U.S. government detonated over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the hearing launched by Lewis Strauss that would strip Oppenheimer of his security clearance. Oppenheimer wraps up its story by revealing the conversation between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein. The film goes back to that moment after Oppenheimer's hearing revoked his security clearance and Strauss' appointment to the position of Secretary of Commerce was denied by the Senate. Einstein tells Oppenheimer that after the world has punished him enough, they'd give him medals and forgive his work on the atomic bomb, but forgiveness would be for them, not for Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer then reveals that the calculations that would bring about the end of the world happened, which rattles Einstein enough to walk away. In Oppenheimer's head, he watches the world's destruction due to nuclear war. Strauss und Oppenheimers Parallelherrings explained. Oppenheimer talking with Strauss next to a pond. Lewis Strauss had a personal grudge against Oppenheimer that he never forgot. After being snubbed and publicly ridiculed by Oppenheimer, who had mocked Strauss' answer at a hearing regarding radioisotopes, Strauss decided to take matters into his own hands. Strauss didn't want to run the Atomic Energy Commission, AEC, if it meant Oppenheimer would continue to influence government decisions on nuclear weapons, especially since they were in opposition regarding its dangers. It was largely pettiness fueling Strauss' actions, and Nolan paralleling his and Oppenheimer's hearings created a push-pull dynamic that represented their disparate views and gave the audience two arguments. While Strauss derailed Oppenheimer's career, he ultimately failed in securing his own seat on the cabinet because of the opposition against him by other scientists, much of the Democratic Party, which included John F. Kennedy, who later helped rehabilitate Oppenheimer's reputation. The parallel hearings also brought to light the fact that Oppenheimer had changed his mind about nuclear weaponry and its use against people in political conflicts. Oppenheimer ultimately changed his mind, opposing the development of the hydrogen bomb, and fought for nuclear peace. However, he didn't regret his role in building the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer did what he was assigned to do, but he felt it was evil, via Smithsonian Magazine, and often spoke about how a superbomb should never be used. This is what Oppenheimer pivoted to. Oppenheimer let himself fall. Kitty urged him to fight back often, but he never did, so he could be forgiven for his past alliances with the Communist Party, and his role in the atomic bomb's creation, all in the hopes of maintaining his security clearance as well. Oppenheimer's final conversation with Einstein. Einstein and Oppenheimer talking by a lake in Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer and Einstein had a similar trajectory in life, and their final conversation in the film, which takes place in 1947, is representative of their paths in life. The conversation with Einstein involves Oppenheimer realizing he'd started a chain reaction in the arms race. The creation of the atomic bomb led to something even more dangerous, and Oppenheimer no longer had any control over it. Einstein admits he had lost the ability to understand what he'd started. His comment alludes to the fact that Einstein's theory of relativity led to quantum mechanics, which ultimately paved the way for the atomic bomb's creation. Einstein predicts that Oppenheimer will be given a medal when the world feels like they've punished him enough, but it will be more about assuaging other people's guilt for screwing him over. This includes Benny Safdie's Edward Teller, who turned against Oppenheimer during the security hearings. The two scientists are essentially the same, they're simply in different stages of their careers, as are the effects of their work's destructive nature. Once it was in motion, neither Oppenheimer nor Einstein could stop what came next, they could only watch as it spiraled. Why Teller betrayed Oppenheimer at the hearings. Teller speaks with Oppenheimer in Los Alamos in Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's hearings took a turn as more collaborators were brought in as witnesses and spoke against him and his methods. One of the most pivotal turns comes from Edward Teller, who has the last testimony heard by the AEC committee. His words ultimately helped the AEC revoke Oppenheimer's security clearance as he said, "His actions, frankly, appeared to me confused and complicated." The betrayal by Teller shocked and angered Kitty, but Oppenheimer still shook his hand at the conclusion of the statements.